Welcome everyone to Insight Meditation Community of Charlotte. I'm one of the Dharma leaders here, and it's my privilege to welcome Lindsay Bridges back to IMC Charlotte. She was one of the founding Dharma leaders here 15 years ago, since we're celebrating our 15th anniversary soon. So just a little bit about Lindsay. Lindsay became interested in mindfulness through her work as a family medicine physician, where the link between healthy stress management and physical well-being was so clear. She trained extensively for teaching mindfulness-based stress reduction, that's MBSR, and has completed her teacher certification for MBSR. She's been teaching MBSR in a variety of hospital and health professional training centers since 2002, and more recently, she has added work with youth and schools. She is a Mindful Schools certified teacher. Mindfulness and meditation practices are an integral part of her daily life. So thank you. We're looking forward to hearing Lindsay Bridges tonight.
Thank you. Clyde asked, can I just get your bio from the website? I said, sure. And I didn't know what was on the website. Oh, I need to go back and update that. So we haven't been in the schools, I'm so sad to say, for a long time. I am part of Charlotte Center for Mindfulness. And we do have the MBSR classes and community drop-ins and other things such as Mindful Cafe of Death and Dying, and hopefully at some point some more collaborations with IMCC, which would be very exciting. So I'm really glad to be here with you all. What I want to share tonight is not what I expected. I had an interesting summer in that a particular family need arose, needed a lot more attention than I could in my regular pace of things. So I made the decision to step back from Charlotte Center for Mindfulness for about 5 weeks. And have only recently come back. This is my second week back since then. What I found when I stepped away was that the reason I was willing to allow myself that time and space was because there was a need there. Once I got home, I realized, oh, I need this. This is as much for me as anyone else in my family. And so what I thought I would share with y'all are some reflections on just having a different pace, a different time, a different possibility of deepening in practice that was, I don't say this lightly, profoundly useful for me in my life. So these are just some reflections on that time, and I hope they'll be useful for you as well. The first thing that became immediately apparent was how needed that shifting of gears of energy was for me. I used to be a family practice doctor many years ago, left in 2002. And then I also, my girls, I have 2 daughters. My girls are now 23 and 28. I did the single parent thing and the high octane energy need that all of that went. And so I kind of had thought I was already in a much lower gear, and that things were not that kind of on go. I don't know if any of y'all can relate to that sort of need to gear up and push forward to get through the day and get past the day. What I found was that there was still a whole nother layer of that hidden in my life that I really wasn't aware of, or I was, but I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to it as something I could tend to and meet differently. And it was just fascinating to me that I didn't allow myself space to tend to it until they needed it. But I didn't take on the permission myself for me to just do it, just for me. So what came out of that is just how, even if we're working with this, how elusively hidden those societal expectations that that family pressure, cultural pressure, almost the badge of honor of being the busy one. Like, oh, I've got so much to do. Like there is a sort of kudos we almost even grant that sort of pace of life in our culture. I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with the teacher Rob Burbea. He was a beautiful teacher. I think he died about 5 years ago from pancreatic cancer. But he talked a lot around looking at the Buddhist concept of emptiness, and even named, when we really start looking into how we structure our life, we find we're structuring it on a lot of empty mythology. That those expectations that we can even sort of idolize if we don't pay attention, take us away from where our real meaning and purpose was. So, the first reflection for me was just how important another shift down in gears were, and how much I can actually do that in my life. And a lot of it is about choice. There are times we don't have choice. I was very struck by, on Labor Day, the house painters at our house who couldn't afford to take Labor Day off. So, there are times that we don't have that privilege. And if we do, are we taking it? Are we structuring our day in the way that feeds our soul? The second one that I want to share was not just that expectation of fast gear, but just noticing, I've been practicing a long time, well, relatively a long time. I don't know how many years, 25 plus, something like that. And there's still there's just still so many layers of misguidedness. It's just like no other way of saying it. And nothing like taking a lot of time away, moving in a different pace, and suddenly shining light on it in a whole new way. There is a very misguided understanding of what brings happiness in our culture. There is a way that all of us, I mean, this is the first noble truth, dukkha, that dukkha exists. All of us at some level or another have some degree of discomfort, unease, dissatisfaction, that if we're not paying attention, it can be just kind of hidden behind the veil and sort of running the show without us even knowing it. Even with 25 plus years of practice, I mean, like, there was still just very interesting insights. Just one small example. Before I took this time away, I would have said wholeheartedly, I love Sudoku. I can still say that a little bit, but I don't have the same feeling about it. Sudoku is something that before I took this, I did a Sudoku every day. That was my limit because it was a rabbit hole I could go down. But once a day kept it in check, and that was okay. And it was fun. It was pleasurable. It was good. I got into about the fourth week of my time away and realized doing a Sudoku had never even crossed my mind. It wasn't that I thought, oh, Sudoku is bad. That wasn't it at all. It was, I was finding out what was so much better than doing a Sudoku puzzle. I really want to make sure I'm not making it sound like, so Sudoku's bad, something else is better. There are times, like if my mind is really chaotic, sitting down with the intention of, I need some support right now. I need to focus on something that kind of just gives me a moment of respite to clarify. The Sudoku puzzle can be a great way to do that. That's fine. It's beautiful. That's very different from that, oh, can I do my puzzle now? Can I get it? Is this a good time I can put a puzzle in? Oh, I don't want to do that work. Maybe I'll do my puzzle. Very, very, very different. So where is this useful? Where is this not useful? It's a really good question. So like between these first two reflections, I just would invite you to pause for yourself. In the first one, what kind of society expectations, what kind of family expectations, what kind of cultural expectations drive a certain sort of lifestyle that actually may not be feeding your deepest wish for meaning and purpose in life. It's more about fulfilling maybe an empty expectation. What would that be for you? Where is there a way that you keep on a high gear when you really could shift down? What is it that keeps you from doing that? A lot of times that shifting down can be very uncomfortable. What does it take to meet that? And the second one, what's your version of Sudoku? The little hidden ways that this misguided attempt of relieving dukkha, of relieving that just kind of unease of the moment. You find yourself standing in front of the refrigerator. Oh, like what do I want out of it? It was so, I just have to laugh. My first, I had my 5-week time, and then the Monday night before I considered my first day back on Tuesday, I was watching some TV show on Netflix with my daughter. I barely watched anything except, and I almost never watch anything but with her. But anyway, we watched the show. Neither of us liked it. It was just not any good. The night before going back, she was like, I'm going to bed. She got up and left. We watch so little TV, we don't even keep it set up, and it's small and it's easy to set up. But so there, I wasn't happy about the show. I was in that mode of, oh, tomorrow I gotta like get back into gear, unconsciously having that thought. She had gone away. The TV was still sitting there. The remote was right beside me. So, like, there I go. I pick the thing up, and all of a sudden, I'm just scrolling through Netflix. What on here? Would that fix that yucky feeling from that show? Maybe that will be, I'm just scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. Caught it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what in the world? What am I doing? Don't need to do this. Put the remote down, put the TV aside, sit down and thought, thankfully. And I picked up the phone. Like, oh, wait a minute. I have just instantly, boom, there it was. I like hadn't scrolled in 5 weeks, and there I was just instantly. Then I really caught it. And I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. And if I'm not paying attention, uncomfortableness drives me into poor choices that don't feel good. None of that felt good. What do I do with the discomfort? Pay attention. It was really uncomfortable. What I noticed is I was a tight wad, and there was literally tunnel vision that didn't want to see anything but like let the eyes still kind of go over to, well, maybe there was still one more thing on that phone. It was like, no, there's nothing else on that phone. And so like, how do I just stay here? Take a breath. Open the eyes. See the room I'm in. feel the tunnel vision. If you watch and stress, there's like literally like a tunnel. It's there. I encourage you to catch a moment of stress and look at what happens to the vision. And so like really to watch, oh yeah, that feels just like that opening just feels so much better. This is why we practice, because there is in this practice a real path to something that feels better than what our society says we should do and what our society says will bring relief from the unhappiness and the dukkha. And we have these moments where we can see that, feel it, know it for ourselves, and know that that is true. I think I'm losing am I okay? Can y'all hear me? Okay. So I loved, there's a sharing from Ananda Bodhi. That always trips me up, sorry. If you don't know her, she's a British, I think, Buddhist nun in the tradition of Ajahn Susito. And when she spent time with her mother dying, she shared these insights on end of life and what matters. It really doesn't matter how many people you know, whether you are in the worldly eyes successful or not successful, or lots of people send you Christmas cards or birthday cards, or if you have a website, whether lots of people click on your website. It's really not important at all. When you get to the end of your life, none of those things have any meaning. What matters is what you've cultivated. And also what courage you've brought forth in your life. When we come to the end of life, if we have the time to go consciously into the ending of this lifetime, anything that is inauthentic becomes so obvious that it is to be shed. It is to be grieved. It is to be moved on from. And we don't have to wait until the end to do that. We can do it now. So my last two reflections are that we can do it now. You know, what did I find in that 5 weeks instead? What was the flip side from the expectations and the misguided little rabbit holes that pop up around us all the time? And I have to say, I do have a sense of what I care about most. I do really have a sense that at the moment of my death, I know what will have mattered, what I do want to have been cultivated. I do have a sense of this path as bringing deeper joy, deeper meaningfulness, deeper sense of love, knowing how to love in the midst of a moment. If I didn't have that sense, I wouldn't be practicing. And I just want to say, I don't think anyone in this room would either. There's no reason we would show up and sit in this radical way together of mostly a half an hour in silence. I mean, why would anyone do that unless you also shared that sense of there is something that is richer, more fine than what our society says is where the real juice is. It's not there. And we wouldn't be here if we didn't have some knowing of that. So part of what came so clear to me was I want more time in my practice. It was very interesting. The first part of first part of my 5 weeks, actually, I did go on a retreat. It was an online retreat, and so I could do a lot of it at home and still be present. A Jana's retreat in the house with kids and stuff going on. That was kind of interesting. But that's it. We are where we are. And with that retreat, what I loved is then carrying into the rest of that 5 week so much more practice. My family didn't need a lot of doing, it needed a lot of presence. And because it needed a lot of presence, not a lot of doing, I had a lot of time to sit in daily life at home, probably more than I've ever had in all of my years of practice. And so I sat a lot. And it was very instructive how much just being able to put more time into practice, how many fruits came out of that. Rich, rich fruits. How much moving at that slower pace meant it wasn't just sitting on the cushion. I mean, our informal practice, what we do throughout our day, matters just as much as whatever we do on a cushion. That I could pause, slow down, and think before I spoke, and have the space in the room to do that. The other thing I really want to say around that is time is not enough. It's not enough to just sit a lot. It's not enough to just take a pause before you speak enough. It's really easy to bring habits that are not useful right into the heart of both of those. I don't know about you, but I have met people who can do very deep absorption. I'm thinking of one in particular many years ago, very, very, very deep absorptive meditation practice. And then he got up and he yelled at my dog. It's it's not enough just to put the time in. It's what we're bringing from our heart and mind into that time. The Jhanas retreat, I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with the Jhanas. It's a Buddhist teaching, for lack of a better term, for samadhi, for concentration practice. And it does, it's stunningly beautiful and kind of miraculous that our nervous systems are born for this. When the conditions are right and we cultivate the right kind of conditions, we also, all of us, have that possibility of experiencing those deep absorptive practices that feel good. That's our birthright, to know what it means to feel good in this body. And this practice, this path, is part of what gets us there. And the reason I say all that is another teaching from Rob Rebea, who taught a lot about the jhanas. He said the number one most important ingredient wasn't, this perfect focus concentration, wasn't in posture, wasn't in like the form, like the doing it right or any of that. The most important ingredient of all is open-heartedness. It's like bringing a soft, open, wise, loving awareness that can be with ourselves, just as we are this moment now. So when I do find myself either scrolling through the Netflix looking for, there was nothing on there. It's quite remarkable. Scrolling through here one way or the other. And then I catch myself, if I just then turn and beat up on myself, all I've done is gone down another rabbit hole. There's nothing useful in that rabbit hole either. Instead, how do I bring wise compassion? Oh yeah, human. Being human's really complicated. Human in a world that feeds us all of this misinformation about what will bring well-being. It's really hard to work with. So how do I take a breath again, open my eyes, open my heart again to the, oh, just the natural ebb and flows of our learnings, of my learnings, and pick up the practice one more moment, one more step. Because I want that joy. I want that well-being. I want to know how to live my life in a way that hopefully matters and makes a difference. And I don't think any of us would be doing this practice if that wasn't something that we shared. So let's just pause there for a moment. In this pause, I invite you, maybe consider these 4 reflections. The first, what kind of societal expectations may be driving my boat? And the second, what kind of misunderstandings of what will really relieve dukkha are confusing me? Not to judge myself around either one of those, but to see this as the possibility of some opening. And third, we don't often have like this 5-week time. What do I have in my night tonight, my day tomorrow? It has a possibility for opening me for, some touch in that I care about, some intentional time, formal, informal. And the fourth, the key to it all, how do I bring a wise open-heartedness, a wholeheartedness to my perfectly flawed human being sense, just as I am, and willingness to compassionately work with this life with care. Thank you.